Kia ora.
Welcome to the NZ Ahead podcast. Everything you need to know about moving to and living in New Zealand.
There's a whole world here.
So nice to be with you again.
You'll be right.
Kia ora.
We call it Aotearoa around here, bro.
We are your hosts, Liz and Brian.
Amazing New Zealand in the southern seas.
See, that's where I belong. That's home.
Hello and welcome to the NZ Ahead podcast. I'm Liz.
And I'm Brian.
And this is your very, very first episode of NZ Ahead podcast ever. So if you're listening to this, you're listening to the very, very virgin first, what's another word for first? Premiere.
The premiere podcast of NZ Ahead.
Yeah.
What is NZ Ahead, Liz?
NZ Ahead, Brian,
Yes.
is a podcast all about moving to and living in New Zealand.
Yeah, and it's to walk by the side of you from the start of like, I want to move to New Zealand, and this is the best place to be because we've got people here who can talk to you and chat to you on a community group and all those sort of things. And we're going to talk about all this.
Don't rush ahead of yourself
it's like
there.
keep listening. This is what I want you to keep. It's like you want to come to New Zealand, you're in the right place.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
you found us.
Just to give you a little bit of a backstory, because if you have found us, like this is the first time you found us. We've actually been doing this for a while, me and Brian.
Yep,
we're all pros at this, aren't
Moving
we,
to
Brian?
New Zealand has been going on for a couple of years, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. And all of a sudden we thought, well, actually, no. Let's just go back. Let's not jump ahead of ourselves. So we're Liz and Brian, husband and wife, and we moved to New Zealand with our two children 13 years ago?
2009, just say that. So whenever you're listening to this, it was 2009. At the moment, it's coming up to 13 years.
Right.
This is 2022.
Yeah. And we moved from England, from Bath in England. And basically, we made that big move and it was hard, you know? I mean, don't get me wrong, we love it and we'll tell you all about that. You're going to hear all about what life in New Zealand is like, but it was hard.
Yep.
And the reason it was hard is because we felt totally and utterly alone. And we just felt like ducks out of water. You know, I was 37. How old were you?
I was 46.
Right. And it's a big move, isn't it?
Yes.
The kids were 8 and 5. And so we come over and we start this new life in New Zealand. Like I said, you're going to hear all about that, about how Brian had to start right back at the beginning being a plumber, how I homeschooled my children. They were 8 and 5, and yet we got over here and we're like, no, not straight away, obviously, but when we'd been here a few years, we said, wouldn't it have been brilliant if we could have had a support group? You know, there was nothing out there.
Yeah, it's hard because you can search, you can spend hours on the internet Googling stuff, and you think, and you can probably find the stuff, but have you got hours and hours? And literally you would spend in hours, and then you'd be going down rabbit holes that just lead nowhere, like, you know.
And the thing I found, Bri, is the stuff you could find on New Zealand was all really promoting New Zealand, which is great.
Yeah,
but you want to know the real stuff.
Yeah, you just don't want to see the tourist stuff.
No, you don't.
That's what you tend to get, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it's just like you look at it and you're like, oh, the North and South Island. Is there a South Island?
Yeah.
Well, it must be warmer in the South Island. Well, no, it's not. You know, it's the other way around. You're on the other side of the world, upside down.
So that was our mission when we started this podcast, and we started this podcast on my It's a Drama channel, which is a travel blog basically, and we just started making all this content on New Zealand to just what's the word? Educate people about what it's like in New Zealand and just give you the real stuff. You know, it's like I say, from us, you'll get it as it is. And we love New Zealand, absolutely adore living here. And we do say lots of positive things about it, but you'll also hear the things that were really, really tough about moving here.
Yeah, because it's not a bed of roses, and it's not the land of milk and honey.
No, it's not.
It's really not. You know, you have to really work hard to get here just first off, and then when you're here, you've got to keep working hard.
Yeah,
you know, unless you're a multimillionaire, then it's this podcast's not really for you. Then is it? Like,
exactly.
You know?
Or if you want to just be our friends, you know, we're willing to do anything for you.
But this is about professionals coming over here, skilled migrants.
Yeah,
that's what it's about. Like, you know, because that's how you're going to get here.
Yeah,
is from your expertise.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we started putting out all this content. I can't even remember when we started doing the New Zealand content, but it was a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
At least a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
because you started off with your son, Sonny.
Oh, yeah. Me and Sonny started it.
Our son.
Our son, Sonny. So if you go back to itsadrama.com and click on podcasts, and you will see the very first podcast me and Sonny, my son, he was 17 at the time, did. And we had this idea when we were travelling that we would start this podcast and just talk about teenagers and living in New Zealand and life in New Zealand. And Sonny and I did that for about a year, and then you know what it's like. Teenagers, they get 18 and they're like, oh, well, you know, I've got other things to do.
He started to get traction on TikTok and didn't want to do podcasts anymore.
No, he didn't want to do podcasts with his mum anymore. So I dragged Brian into it and said, okay, well, you know, you'll do. You sit here. And me and Brian just became this great team.
I used to be the Muppet in the corner with the headphones on, as Sonny used to call me.
But
that's a bit of fun, wasn't it?
And we just carried on doing this podcast, and it grew and grew and grew. And we've done so much. We've made a big, massive video guide for people moving to New Zealand that's full of videos, uncut videos, real life videos in New Zealand. And then from there we added audio, and from there we added a community until this beautiful package, I suppose, came together, which we now call the NZ Ahead membership, which our aim with that membership, or that package, is to just walk beside people as they make the move to New Zealand and introduce them to friends so they've got someone when they get here. So
we've got people here in New Zealand now, and they're still in the community because they love being in the community. You know, they've been in here, it's coming up a year now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's how long we've been helping people move over, is over a year. And they can't thank you enough. It's so nice to hear when they say, thank you for starting this community, because, you know, we've got people down in Dunedin on the South Island, we've got people in Wellington, Auckland, and just around, you know, Hawke's Bay and things like that. And, you know, if you move into one of these regions, it's just great. You can go out for coffee with one of these people.
I know.
And just talk about the stuff, because when you first get here, it's always that little bit tricky. Unless you've got family or some friends that are here, then it's like
you
us.
Just want people there,
you just want someone that you can just you already know, and they're telling you these things, what's going on, you know, and it's just like you can't find it from the news channels what's going on, you know, and it's not a Facebook channel, so it's just genuine people that are coming. Yeah.
In saying that, I mean, that is a community that we have, but this podcast is free. This podcast is for you. Yep. So if you don't want to be part of a community, that's fair enough, because we're always here for you anyway on the podcast. And you know, you can reach out to us on YouTube, and you can send us an email, and all our details are always all over on our websites. But yeah, this isn't about plugging the community in any way. It's just letting you know that there is a community there if you want it. But,
exactly.
And also you'll hear us referring to people, you know, we interview a lot of people and we're like, oh yeah, you're part of our community. So that's who we're talking about when we say our community.
And even you guys listening right now are part of our community.
Exactly, really right. That's what I'm saying. This is our podcast community, isn't it? You know, this is who we get behind the microphone.
We're the ones whispering in your ear right now.
This is who we get behind the microphone and talk to every single week.
Yeah, it is.
So does that say enough of who we are and what we've done?
I think
So no, hang on. So yeah,
hang on. A bit of Cornish coming out there.
It got to the stage where we had all this New Zealand content, and we'd created this membership, and we'd had this massive guide, and we've got all these wonderful people. And it got to the stage where we decided that this needed its own little house to live in.
Yes.
This needed to be its own entity.
Yes, yeah, because your It's a Drama is travel, homeschooling,
it's all different
and New
things.
Zealand. So you need to be niched into that niche, and you can see all the stuff. You don't have to go searching through hundreds of our podcasts to find out these podcasts, because, you know, that's what this is about.
So if you're on
to New Zealand,
NZ Ahead, and you're listening to this podcast, which of course you will be, because there's no other way you could be listening to this podcast.
No.
Please know that every single episode you are ever going to get is only ever going to help you on deciding whether you want to move to New Zealand. By giving you all the information of what it's like, how to make the move, and what it's like when you're living in New Zealand. So with that being said, let's jump into this brief show. We're going to keep it as short as we can, because this is our intro one. We thought we'd answer the question that we get so many times from people, which is, so is New Zealand really for me? You know, like, what's so special about New Zealand? This is a huge, huge topic, isn't it? It's like, And we know
what
where
is
we
New
answer all that.
Zealand? Where is New Zealand? Some Americans don't even know where it is.
Well,
you know,
don't just rule out Americans.
No, yeah, but we did an interview with a Zoom call today with some American parents of people that have moved to New Zealand, and like they said, you know, I'd heard of New Zealand, but I didn't really know where it was, and I thought it might be by Australia, and it's not really
Mind you,
by
Bri,
Australia. It's like saying the UK is by Australia.
I'll tell you the truth.
What?
I didn't know where New Zealand was.
You didn't, did you?
No.
Yeah.
I think I was about, it was only when my sister moved over here that I decided to look on a map and go, oh yeah, where's New Zealand? I better see where she's gone.
That's it. Is it by South Africa?
Yeah. So you can't, you know, hands up. It's easy to do that, isn't it? Because you don't really hear a lot. I mean, maybe you do now, but 10 years, you don't really hear.
Did you never used to do that when you were a kid, though? If you dug a hole through the middle of the earth, you'd end up in New Zealand.
No, you'd always say, I'll end up in Australia.
Oh, we used to say New Zealand.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's weird, that, isn't it?
Yeah, just like the other side of the world to us was just Australia. That was it. And I'm not going to say I thought New Zealand was a town in Australia because that would just make me sound really stupid then.
Yeah. And New Zealand is not like Australia.
No, right.
It really is. Neither are the people.
What we just thought is for the next 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever we're going to be here, we'll just talk to you about 3 main points. So if you're thinking, is New Zealand for me? Here's 3 main points. And we're going to go into so much more detail about this in further shows, but here's a little taster for you. So number 1.
Yeah, what was number 1? Because I can't read upside down. I know I live in New Zealand, but I'm not good at reading upside down. You've got the notes.
I'm sitting
and
opposite.
Your scribble is awful.
Thanks, Brian. I'm sitting
right.
opposite Brian and he can't read the notes. Right, number 1 is slower pace of life.
Yes, yeah. So there you go, slower pace of life. I always thought that when we were living in the UK, and we've done a lot of travelling around the world, one of the most stressful things in the world is travel. And
what do you mean travel?
You get in your car and go to work.
Oh, do you mean driving? Just
driving, you know, or getting a bus or anything like that.
When have you ever got a bus?
Get on a train. Yeah, in London.
When?
All the time.
Okay.
So that was the biggest cause of stress
Bloody
I used
buses.
to find. Bloody buses. Those bloody tubes. Going through the middle of Bath City Centre. And, you know, we used to live a mile and a half from the city centre, and it could take me 30 minutes, because I was a tradie, in a van to drive into town. You had to take your tools with you. So, you know, I couldn't, no electric cars, no buses, no e-bikes, anything. You can't take a van full of tools on that. So, and it would just be so stressful because you'd promise to be somewhere and it's like, oh, we'll just leave 10 minutes early. And it's like, you do, and it still takes you the same amount of time.
Do you know what I think would be really cool, Bri?
What?
If you were a plumber and you had an e-bike and oh God, that would be so good. Imagine how busy you'd be, right? So you're a plumber, just pretend we live back in England, and you haven't got a van, you've got one of those little e-bikes.
Yeah.
And you've got like 2 packs on the side with all your hammers and your screws and your drain blockers.
Yeah.
And
not that plumbers do drain blockers, but
well,
anyway.
Doing your things.
Yeah.
Imagine that, Bri.
And a little chimney sweep brush as well.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah. And do you know what happened?
What?
The first job you'd go to when you'd parked outside and you're on the 5th floor up, you come back and your bike would be nicked.
Oh.
Carry a big chain like Scrooge at Christmas. Chain it up to the railings.
All right, so anyway,
we're getting silly. But just that slower pace of life, everything, it just slows down here. And that doesn't mean that everyone talks slowly or things happen slowly, but it just is so much easier.
It is, isn't it?
And you just can't explain that until you actually move here, because New Zealand is the same sort of size as the UK. It's slightly bigger than the UK with the 2 islands. So
how big is it compared to America?
Well, it's tiny.
No, but remember we knew once, didn't we? We knew there was a state
25 to 1 or something like,
No, but Bri, do you remember there was a state in America that was the same size?
You could fit New Zealand into, probably Texas. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, there was somewhere, wasn't there?
Yeah, there is. But it's just...
It's small, isn't it?
And there's only just coming at 5 million people. You know, when you think England's 65 plus million people in the same sort of space, you've got 5 million people. You have to keep thinking about that, and that's what I say about traffic. There is traffic here around the big cities.
Yeah,
there's traffic.
There's loads of traffic.
It can be horrendous, But most people, if you're looking at coming as a skilled migrant, you get more points if you move out of Auckland. It might just give you the tipping point, an extra 10, 15 points on your expression of interest when you're filling it all out. that you'll get more money if you live away from Auckland, because 1 million people live in Auckland.
Right, I just want to say something because I think this is important to say, because if I wasn't living in New Zealand now and I was listening to this podcast and I heard us two saying, oh, it's a slower pace of life, in my mind I'd be thinking, if you dream of moving to New Zealand, then you are going to love what I'm about to share with you. 12 years ago, when me and Bri emigrated to New Zealand, we were scouring the internet, trying to find any information that we could about what our life would be like when we got here. And basically all we had was YouTube. So we made this vow. We said, when we get to New Zealand, we're going to create something that we can share with others that answers those questions that you're so desperate to know about. Like, what is your life going to be like when you get here? And that's what I'm here to offer you today. We have created a 5-day free, absolutely free video guide that shows you what it's really like to live in New Zealand. This stuff is unique and it is fabulous. You are not going to find it anywhere else on the internet. And like I say, it's absolutely free. You'll be sent a video every day for 5 days and you will know what it's like in New Zealand. So head over to the website. It's www.nzahead/free. One more time, that's www.nzahead/free. You are going to love it. Right, I just want to say something because I think this is important to say, because if I wasn't living in New Zealand now and I was listening to this podcast and I heard us two saying, oh, it's a slower pace of life, in my mind I'd be thinking, you know, like plodding along next to the tractor, just whistling with a piece of straw hanging out my mouth, like life's sweet in New Zealand, like, you know.
Just like yesterday.
Pardon?
Just like we did yesterday.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Whistling along with a straw, talking to the, with the tractor.
I don't know what you mean. When do we
everyday
do that?
life in New Zealand.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. But I don't want people to get the wrong idea, that's all, right? Yes, it is a slower pace of life, right? And yes, traffic contributes massively to that. So does the fact that you don't have to queue up for hours in Sainsbury's to get to the checkout. So does the fact that you don't have to wait hours to see the doctor in the waiting room. You know, all of those things, little things add up. So when we say it's a slower pace of life, like Bri said, don't be thinking that you're going to come over and it's just going to be, hang on, let me do my Kiwi accent. Everything's so slow in New Zealand, even though that's rubbish. Yeah. But it's like, don't be thinking. That's what I don't want people to get that impression. Yeah,
no, and that's that. It's not that. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, it's like you were saying at Sainsbury's. So you go to a supermarket here, New World or something like that. If there's 4 people in front of you, that would be very rare, wouldn't it? Like, and you should just sort of in and out. There's no queues to get in the car parks. There's no. You don't pay to go in the car parks. It's just, everything is just a lot easier, isn't it? Like,
Answer me this, Bri.
Yeah.
When you're in, because actually, when we were like in lockdown in 2020, there was massive queues at the supermarket, right?
Well, yeah.
Obviously. So, but just answer me this, and this is what I can't understand, and this is what I find hard to put my finger on. When I was in a queue in England, in Sainsbury's, say, and there was like 7 people in front of me, you could, like when you're next to someone and you can feel their energy.
The tension.
Yeah,
what you're
and you can
about.
feel the whole energy of the queue. And it's like, it's almost like passing down one of those. Remember we used to have those things that you, when you were a kid and you took like a wire around and you couldn't touch the bar because if you touched it, it went, zzz, like those things. Do you know what I mean? Like with the electric thing. It's almost like that. Just constantly touching the bar and it was like coming down the queue. So by the time it got to you, you were just fuming, absolutely angry.
Especially if someone stopped and talked to the checkout assistant.
Anything. If someone had...
Come on.
Or if someone went, oh, sorry, I've forgotten something. Can I just... No way. You're not allowed to do that. Don't you dare leave this place in the queue.
You're looking at your clock and thinking, I've now got an hour of traffic to go through.
So answer me this. When you're in New Zealand and you are in a queue, or a line, as the Americans say... Why is there no tension in that queue?
Because it's England, it's Britain. It's like that's the difference.
I don't think you can just blame it on that.
The thing is, it depends where you live, and the thing is, these are the reasons why you think about moving. Because if you're living in this wonderful place in England, it's either costing you an arm and a leg. Tell me,
answer the question.
Well, I don't. That's what I said, because it's England. Because
I'm saying, why are they not like it in New Zealand? Why can you be in a queue in New Zealand? And everyone's like just standing there going, Oh, yeah. I don't know. There's just this nice feeling. It's just...
Because of that. But that's what I'm saying. So you get out and back into your car and you just drive straight home. That's the difference. Where in England, you get out and then you've got to battle out the car park, which, remember Sainsbury's in Bath, you literally had to queue out the car park to get out onto the road.
Oh, God, do you remember that?
It's just like crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like someone's trying to cross the zebra crossing, it's like, you're stopping me.
Actually, that's a really good point, right? So imagine this. I'm sorry, we do tend to go off topic a lot. But imagine this. So your stress starts in Sainsbury's in the queue, in the line, right?
Yeah.
That's because you know that now you're going to have to sit even more in the car and wait to get out of the car park, which means it's going to be 6 o'clock by the time you get home, which means your child that's been told to do their homework by the school, and if you don't do it, you're in big trouble and you can't. So now that stress is there, you know? Yeah. And, so
it's
actually when you think about it, it's sort of like it's stress upon stress upon stress. Yeah. And that's what builds up, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Thinking, why am I so annoyed? And it's just, that's why.
Yeah, and the kids here don't do homework. They do a little bit.
Some of them do. Yeah, but you can't say that.
Yeah, but it's not the same. It really isn't.
If you're listening to this podcast, you'll also know, hopefully by now we've put it on there, the podcast with Joe, the teacher.
Yes.
Knows Brian, some schools do homework.
I know they do, yeah.
But there's a big, and we're not going to get into that here because we're only on point one and now it's 20 minutes in.
20 minutes, and it was only supposed to be 10-minute podcast.
Yeah, but there is a big thing of, you know, in New Zealand, the schools, they're very much focused on the well-being of the child and what keeps the child happy, and if that means going out to play and only doing 5 minutes reading, that's what Joe was saying.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, going back to that, it's just that build-up of stress. So, right.
So that's that slower pace of life, as in, it just doesn't mean, like you say, slow. It just means everything is just that little bit easier.
Yeah. Right. So number 2 is New Zealand for me. Just be aware that you are going to feel cut off from the rest of the world.
Yes. Yeah.
Geographically,
you are the other side of the world. And everyone goes, it's only a short hop to Australia. And, well, it's not. It's a 3-4 hour flight. So it's like saying, you're in the UK, let's just hop over to Florida. It's only an 8-hour flight, or, you know. I'm talking time zone. Yeah, nip over to Greece or something like that.
Yeah, Greece. Yeah. How long does it take what's the shortest flight from New Zealand to Australia? Do you know?
It's about 4 hours.
Is it? I thought it was 2. No, 4 hours.
It's 3 or 4 hours. Yeah,
right.
But the time zones they're 3 hours behind, aren't they?
I don't know.
Yeah,
but you are going to feel cut off. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, you can fly to Sydney, Melbourne. Melbourne, I think, is the closest to New Zealand because that's geographically similar to Auckland in longitude. So, you know, the lines, they're pretty similar, but it's a lot further west.
And you have these things, you say, you know, I mean, everyone does it. We did it. Everyone does it. Oh, yeah, we're going to go home once a year. We're going to go and see the family once a year. Unless you've got flipping stacks of money, that's not going to happen.
No, even if you live in France and you want to just hop over to England, you don't go and see your family because it's just a major thing every time. You know, it's like, the trouble is like, if you live in France, you're going to use your car and drive because you need a car when you get to back home. That's going to take you a day's driving, isn't it? Like, you know, ferries and tunnels or whatever. But the difference with France, that's what we're saying, is if you move to France, let's say, because we wanted to move to France. Twice we wanted to buy a house there. You've got everything on your doorstep, haven't you? You know, you can drive to Italy, Spain, Germany. You can, but we're not saying that. I'm just saying, travel-wise, to get back home, it's a 24-hour flight here, and it does cost you a lot more than flying from France. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But talking about being cut off, we didn't finish what we were talking about. So you're going to feel geographically cut off, but technology is amazing here. In this country, there's, you know, we have an internet at the moment. We live in the middle of nowhere. You know, we're 20 kilometres from the nearest town. The nearest village is about 8 kilometres away, and it is just a village with a cafe and a bar and a restaurant and a school and small library and stuff like that. So it is a little sort of village, but our internet speeds are amazing. We're on rural internet speed. It's been in government policy that, you know, we will have high-speed internet to everybody in New Zealand. So, you know, we're running 150 megabits up and down, which, considering where we live, is pretty outstanding. Like, you know. Do you think the government said that because they think, well, you know, we're a really cut-off country, so we're not going to be left behind from the rest of the world? Yeah. So is that right? That's it, yeah. It's like they know what the future of the internet is. They saw that a long time ago. If you're renting a house and you're a landlord of a house and your tenant wants fibre and there is fibre in the road, they have to legally let them have fibre come into the house.
Do they?
Yeah. So stuff like that. It's like you can't keep people from having fast internet in New Zealand.
What's fibre mean?
Fibre optics.
What's that mean?
It's that's how the internet gets around the world, is on fibre optics or satellite communications.
Right.
So it's a fibre optic which shines light down a fibre underneath the sea, and it's at the speed of light, and there's thousands of colours of lights, which is the data transfer.
Again, we've talked about this
Just
a lot in
pulses
our
of light.
past.
Yes.
God, you know a lot, don't you, Brian?
Well, I did the green school in New Zealand, so
Yeah.
we got into the dark fibre. So I learned quite a bit about the dark fibre, what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a funny name though, isn't it? Fibre. I want fibre in my house. I just think of Allbran.
Yeah.
Let's come down, sprinkle a load of Allbran all over the driveway.
Yeah.
There you go. Should be able to phone your mum now, nice and quick.
But you're talking the dark fibre is 10 gigabits a second, which is huge.
So yeah, the technology side of New Zealand is just, I think, it's been brilliant.
Yeah, it's great.
It is.
Yeah. And
so that side you're not going to feel cut off.
Yeah, and they trial a lot of technologies here because of the size of the country. With 5 million people, if they get it wrong, then it's not a huge mistake. So, I remember when we first arrived, they were testing this new cell phone system that, it would work over hills and things. It didn't. Yeah. So they've been, that's that idea.
Do you like feeling cut off in New Zealand, Bri?
I do sometimes, like with the COVID pandemic. My goodness, they saved thousands of lives. It was just, at the height of the COVID pandemic, there was 65 deaths, and that was it, because they closed the borders and didn't let anyone in.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
So William, who is a member of our community,
yes,
he put a question up on Slack group the other day, and it said, and I thought it was such a good question, this. Well done, William. He said, how do New Zealanders feel? Did you see this?
I think so, but I can't remember it now.
How do New Zealanders feel now that the borders are reopened? Actually, we should do a separate podcast on this, because this is a really good topic. How do New Zealanders feel now the borders are reopened? Do you feel like relieved, or do you feel a little bit like, oh no,
Don't let them in.
Don't let the enemy in. Don't let the bad uns in.
No, well, the thing is that there was an Englishman that came into New Zealand. He was a disc jockey, wasn't he? And he brought Omicron in with him, and didn't get picked up in MIQ at the time, but he carried it, and so it kind of got in here by default, but it was right near the end of...
Was it his fault that all New Zealand got Omicron?
Mainly, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Imagine that.
I know.
Imagine if you were the one.
Yeah, because it just started and it just like...
Oh.
And you just think...
What are you famous for, Mr. DJ?
Yeah, Mr. DJ. What did we...
I brought New Zealand down.
Yeah, I brought New Zealand Omicron. Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Right, answer the question. Are you happy that New Zealand have opened the borders?
Yeah, definitely. We need to move forward.
Yeah, me too.
And all that New Zealand wanted to do was get everybody vaccinated. That's why they closed the borders. Like, let's get everyone vaxxed as much as we can. They've done all we can, and it's like, there we go. Yeah, we can't do more for you.
I think we should do a podcast on this. Just do me a note. Just William's question. I'm going to do a podcast.
Yeah, and if you want a podcast, email us. Let us know.
Yes.
If there's something that really is getting onto you, just flick us an email.
You can email me at liz@itsadrama.com and just ask anything that you want us to talk about, and we will just put it to the board. So I'll ask Bri when he comes out of the bathroom. Hey, Bri, what do you think of this?
Yeah, that sounds good.
And he'll say yes or no, and then we'll go with it. Okay, so
right,
liz@itsadrama. Right, last one is basically... Oh, again, this is a big topic. And when I wrote it down, I thought, oh, Liz, you're opening a can of worms there. But is New Zealand for me? Look, if you're going to move to New Zealand, you're going to have a certain personality, because not everyone moves to the other side of the world. You're going to be an adventurer. You're going to have that personality that makes you think, I can do it. We'll give that a go. And you've got to hold on to that when you get to New Zealand. You can't come to New Zealand and think and sit there and expect everything to change for you. Like, you've got to be willing to change to New Zealand. You've got to be willing to get on with it. Mm-hmm. Get to New Zealand and just get on in there and get on with it. It's so important, isn't it?
Yeah, but the big thing with that is, there's a saying here in New Zealand, and, it's about English people that come over. They're called the ping pong pom. That means they come over, oh, this is not for me, and go back home. and then they get back home and they think, actually, it was quite good there. And then they come back. But the big thing is when you come here, it's an English-speaking country. There's an indigenous population of Maori people. You probably heard them called Maori, but the correct pronunciation nowadays is called Maori. And it's not a huge population. It's about 15%, isn't it, of the population is
sure,
Maori.
yeah.
It's not a big. There are Pacific Islanders, I should say, from Fiji, Rarotonga, and things like that. So there is a difference between them. But so when you come here, what you've got to realise, it's not where you came from. So you've come from an English-speaking country, whether it's the UK, South Africa, USA. So, like Liz said, you've got to get on with it, and you've got to immerse yourself in this culture that when you get here. And you might turn around and go, oh, well, it's not the same as home. And it's like, no, it's not, because you are in an island in the southern Pacific, It's absolutely idyllic here. It's absolutely gorgeous. But you've just got to realise that the adventure is becoming a new person when you get here.
Yeah.
You're still yourself, but like Liz said, you've got to immerse yourself in it. And it's not like you're going to lose yourself. You don't lose yourself. It's just that, just accept it for where you are, what it is, and like get on with it.
Yeah.
And just stop thinking, oh, I missed this or missed that. I missed that. It's because you will miss things, but you just think, but I love this and I love that.
And when you say lose yourself, when I think the thing there is like, you're just letting go of old habits and old expectations.
Yeah.
That's what I found. Yeah. It was like, well, yeah, but they don't do it like that. And it's like, no, they don't, because guess what? You're in New Zealand.
Yeah, and this is what works here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I think it's a bit tricky because they speak English, especially for the people from the UK, because a lot of New Zealand was built on people who have come over from the UK. So
from
you
Europe,
tend to think,
mainly the UK.
Yeah, so you're tending to think, oh, it's going to be like back home.
Yeah.
And it's not.
It's not. No, the pubs are
It's
different,
just
the
not.
restaurants are different, the cafes are different,
Yeah.
the shops are slightly different. It's all a little bit different. There's
Yeah.
lots of familiar things. You'll see BP petrol stations here and stuff like that, but it's just a little bit different.
And I think if you know that and you're prepared for that, you're going to do so much more better. It's like you're not, if you want the same life, stay where you are.
Yeah.
Don't come here and think, oh yeah, well, I want the same life, but I just want less people. No, that's not going to work. No. That's not how it is.
No, because you can go to the southwest of England, you can go to Wales and live where there's nobody else living But
I love this topic so much.
It's the same as if you were going to Canada. It would be exactly the same. If you were moving to America, if you're going to go and live in Florida, if you move to Australia, it's the same thing. They've all got their own cultures, haven't they?
Yeah.
And it's just because we're English speaking, that culture difference can be huge. The sense of humour can be different. Just the way you look at someone, the way you say hello to someone. It's, because in England you always say, "You all right?" And some people just get annoyed and it's like, why do you keep asking me if I'm all right? It's just like, of course I'm all right.
Yeah.
I'd tell you if I wasn't.
Let's do another podcast about this, Bri. Let's do it, because I love this topic so much. Do you?
But this is what you can get into with NZ Ahead, and that's with us talking about New Zealand.
Yeah, we
and
do.
That's what it's all about, this podcast.
So as you can see, if you
see where we go.
Yeah, exactly. So this is us. This is what we do. We just tend to just go off on tangents,
break it apart.
And just let you know. Hopefully, by sitting here with us, you're going to get a flipping good idea of what this country's like and what you can expect.
We've raised 2 children from the ages of 8 and 5. They're now, Sonny is coming up to 21 years old and Tessa is coming up to 18, isn't she? So, we've got all that experience to talk about. They're still going.
We've done it.
And they're just brimming with life, They're absolutely
I wouldn't go that far, but I don't be silly.
Of course they are.
She's still in bed. Look at her. She's brimming with life.
But they are. It's just like they can just see this great future ahead of them, and it's just like, it's great.
There's so many things we could unpack. So it's just I'm
and
really
talking
excited
about packing, just what to bring. When you come over, shall I bring anything or shall I sell it before I go? That's what you're going to hear on this podcast.
Yeah.
All right, so remember what we're planning on doing. So literally, this is our very, very first podcast that we're making, Friends That Ahead. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring, I think, about 10 or 12 of the
old podcasts from our old channel, It's a Drama, over.
Because it's such good content.
It is brilliant content.
And you can't do it again.
No. But, so that will be
It's
here.
in one place for you.
Yeah.
That's
and
the
every
idea.
week you'll get fresh stuff. But if you are loving this podcast and you're thinking, oh, you know, I just can't believe what wonderful people these Liz and Brian is. Oh my gosh, they're amazing.
Unreal.
Then go back over to It's a Drama and you can find all the older stuff on New Zealand.
Yeah.
Right back to when me and Sonny first started in 2019. You might want to go back and listen to that. There might be some episodes over there that are on here, so you might have to, you know, skip a few or whatever, but...
Yep, and you can hop over to YouTube on It's a Drama. You'll find this channel as well on our It's a Drama channel.
Yeah.
On YouTube, but there's travel vlogs and all sorts of things which obviously you can't see in a podcast.
Oh,
so
yeah. Just
you know
stay
you can
here.
just look and it's
Just
easier.
relax.
Just enjoy yourself. Listen to the
Yeah.
podcast. And,
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So until next time,
Yep.
we're going to say goodbye.
Yep. Until next time, and you've got a back catalogue to go and have a look at as well. So you know, go and see them. There's going to be at least 10. Oh, let's just knock the microphone off. You know, there's stuff to catch up with, and then we're going to release weekly as we go along.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Take care.
Stay with us.
See you soon.
We're holding your hand. Take care. See you soon. Kia kaha. Stay strong. That's a bit of a Maori word.
Yeah.
And kia u is stay true.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast this week. We have loved having you here with us.
If you love this week's show, please share this with your friends. Send it to anybody you know that wants to think about moving to New Zealand, and get on over here yourself.
And tell them how brilliant it is as well. And also, if you haven't signed up for our free 5-day video guide showing you what life is really like in New Zealand, then go over to the website and sign up. You are missing out. This is brilliant. Go over to www.nzahead/free and we will send you 5 days worth of videos about what life is like in New Zealand. You are going to love it. So one more time, that website that you need to sign up for the free 5-day guide is www.nzahead/free. So we're going to see you next week. Until then, have a great week and we'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Say bye again. Bye.
Bye.